Sandhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Friends, today we will talk about Ben Jonson. As we know, Ben Jonson is a famous writer after the Elizabethan period. But we have to understand how Ben Jonson became famous, why Ben Jonson became noted writer, and why he was given importance after the Elizabethan period. We know the time of Ben Jonson is starting after the Elizabethan period, but he came on the stage, he came on the limelight after the Elizabethan period was over. So first we have to think what are the factors responsible to make Ben Jonson a good writer, a good critic, and of course a good human being. First we have to understand the factors or the aspect which are responsible for Ben Jonson to become a good writer. Ben Jonson started his career, and when he was young, he was a small boy, he saw that on that time the literary scene of Britain was in a way very disturbed, because the Elizabethan period was rich in poetry, in drama, in criticism, and in many fields of literature. So when Ben Jonson came on the scene, he saw that Shakespeare and the university wits were given so much importance. So on that time he became aware of the fact that something limitation should be there on the side of criticism and poetry aspect. So when Ben Jonson started his career, he was aware that Shakespeare and the university wits have done a lot of things on the stage of Britain, and in the field of drama, in the field of poetry, and in the field of criticism also. So Ben Jonson came on that time in a way that he saw that the university wits were all scholars of Oxford, Cambridge, and other university, but they have used far-fetched images, lot of new invention in their writing. So if he felt that something is missing as art for the art's sake or art for the literature's sake. So what are the problems which made Ben Jonson aware about the fact that what is a true poetry, what is a true poet? So first of all, we have to understand the factors which are responsible, which made Ben Jonson aware about the age in which he was living. So first let us understand the university wits. You know the university wits, Nash, Lodge, then Marvell, Lilly, John Donne, Herbert, all are writers who wrote metaphysical poetry. We know that metaphysical poetry, the poetry itself shows men of learning. All metaphysical poets were men of learning, and to show their learning was their chief endeavor. So one factor was the metaphysical poets. Then let us talk about Shakespeare. As we know that Shakespeare was the greatest, or we can say one of the greatest writers of British literature, or the whole literature in English. But Ben Jonson saw faults in Shakespeare also. He doesn't take Shakespeare as the greatest writer in the way that was said to Shakespeare. He saw that unrelieved pressure of thoughts, passion, and poetry in tragedies. We know the tragedies of Shakespeare, Romeo Juliet, then many other tragedies, they are having a lot of poetry. So it's a thing of surprise for Ben Jonson that the tragedy is there, the tragedy is going on, and a lot of poetry is there. So poetry and tragedy both are not similar, both are not in the same compartment. So Ben Jonson was aware of the mixture of comedy with tragedy, poetry in tragedy, and so if he felt that carelessness of genius or mediocrity or disaster in the work of literature is going on. What Ben Jonson didn't like on that time, that imperfect self expression, then reckless violence. If we read any play of Marlowe, like Dr. Faustus, the last scene of Dr. Faustus, we realize that Dr. Faustus is a tragedy, but lot of unusual scenes are there in the tragedy. So reckless violence, cloying sweetness, bombast language, imagery for the sake of imagery. So the work of Elizabethans was not up to the mark according to Ben Jonson, because the imageries are there, but imagery for the sake of imagery, then sin for the sake of sins, violence for the sake of violence, even if it is a comedy or a tragedy. So that type of things I think Ben Jonson didn't like, because he has certain doctrines, certain values, how and what type of imagery should be there in a comedy, in a tragedy. But Ben Jonson has a very high regard for Bacon. We know Francis Bacon. What he says about Bacon, that Bacon is aloof, uncanned, unpossessed, wise, self-possessed, and the scholar, the scientist, logician, essayist, and neat person of neatness. So Ben Jonson has a very high regard for Bacon. In Bacon, Ben Jonson sees that here is a man who is perfect in his language, who gives importance to the thoughts, who give precision, who gives importance in his writing for the right words at a right time in a very selected way. So for him, Ben Jonson is a man who has done a right writer as a essayist. So Ben Jonson has a very high regard for Bacon. In Bacon, he sees that here is a man who has given everything in his writing that is neat, precise, compact, up to the mark, and up to the level of the writers or of the people who can understand his writing. Now let us understand what Ben Jonson hates, what type of things which hates, the factors which hates, which doesn't please Ben Jonson. So Jonson hates first, let us talk about literary writing, the language of the writing. He says that there is no slow way or sure way or the way of success which is clear, perfect in literature. Labor is necessary. Hard work is necessary in literature. Literature is not a way of success in the sense that it is not the literature which is full of roses. Hard work and labor is necessary. Then he hates pressure of thought, passion, poetry in tragedies. As we talked earlier, that we see a lot of poetry in most of the plays of Shakespeare. Here it will be interesting what Ben Jonson says about Shakespeare. It is worth quoting, and as a student you must know what Jonson talks about Shakespeare, how he regards Shakespeare. He says, it is very famous quotation of Ben Jonson on Shakespeare, Please listen it carefully. I remember the players have often mentioned it as an honor to Shakespeare that in his writing, whatsoever he penned, he never blurted out a line. We know that on Shakespeare, about Shakespeare, it is said that whatever he has said or whatever he wrote, everything is clear, everything is perfect. There is no fault, no defect in his writing. But Ben Jonson cautions the reader. Ben Jonson makes the reader aware that there may be faults in the writing of Shakespeare also. What he says, my answer hath been to them, would he had bloated 1,000. See what Ben Jonson talks about Shakespeare, that it has been said that Shakespeare never bloated a line or Shakespeare never made any mistake in his writing. But Jonson says that he would have bloated 1,000. He would have committed thousands of mistakes, which they thought a malevolent speech. I had not told posterity this but for their ignorance, who choose the circumstances to command their friend by wherein he most faulted. He was now Jonson praises Shakespeare, that what are the qualities in Shakespeare which had made him the greatest writer. He was indeed honest and of an open and free nature, had an excellent fancy and brave notions and gentle expressions, wherein he flowed with that facility that sometimes it was necessary he should be stopped. As Augustus said of Haetorius, his wit was in his own power. Would the rule of it had been so too. So the main quotation of Jonson was, there was ever more in him to be praised than to be pardoned. One side praising Shakespeare, other side pardoning Shakespeare. So what to choose? So the conclusion of Jonson on Shakespeare is that a lot of things, lot of matter, lot of plays, lot of writing of Shakespeare is praiseworthy. Things are there which should be pardoned for Shakespeare, but they are very less in numbers. So he has a very high regard for Shakespeare. Now we come to the topic of how Jonson relate the university wits. You know, he has seen the problems of writing of that time. So due to that, he became aware that what should be the character of a poet, what should be the characteristics of a true poetry. So let us come to that point, that what are the qualities he sees in a true poet. First, Jonson gives, now let us first finish that topic, that which type of things Jonson doesn't like. Now, ungoverned, imperfect self-expression. In many writings, Jonson gives attention of the reader to that thing, that there are many imperfect self-expression in literary writing. Then immortal, admired expressionism, imagery for the sake of imagery. As we talked earlier, there are imageries are there, but they are for the sake of imagery. They only enhance, they only decorate the matter, they only increase the popularity of the writer. Then literature to become a department of school mastering. It is very interesting. Yeah, we know that there is a school, the school principal. The school principal holds the whole administration of schools. So he actually governs school administration. Here Johnson says that writing should not be governed by certain rules and regulations. It should not be the matter of school mastering, school activity. Poets' liberty narrowed by either grammarians or philosophers. Johnson hates the idea of the poets who are writing in certain control. Poets should be free. They can express in any way. They can give their expression from all directions. There should not be any control of a critic, a person, a ruler, or any human being on their writing. So he says, poets' liberty narrowed by either grammarians or philosophers. Grammarians control the writing, control the creative writing. Because in certain poetry, you have to go by meter. So on that time, you are controlled by that meter. So Johnson doesn't like that the imagery, the feelings, the passion, or the creativity should not be controlled by any grammarians or any person or any rulers of that time or any group of the literary writers of that time. Then he hates a poet to contend with precepts, maxims, ready guides to literary conduct. A poet should not be controlled, or a poet should not contend, should not be satisfied what he has given to the reader, what he has given to the society. He should not be satisfied in the narrow circle. He should think in a broad way. He should think in a broad manner, that his imagery is not limited to one group, to one age, or to one group of people, but